I'm Garrett Hikus, and welcome to Chasing the Dream TV. In this episode, we're going to be covering our 2019 hunting season over our wildlife perfect plots from Kaup Forage and Turf. To get started, we'll join Andy in one of our main plots as he takes soil samples. This plot got hit pretty hard with the spring flooding last year, and it was actually 7 to 8 foot underwater for quite a while.
We're going to have something in here that's going to attract deer all year long. So in order to get the best results, you really need to treat it like a crop, because that's what it is. That's really what's going on here. So one of the things that's a lot of fun working with Kaup Forage and Turf is we're going to work with the other side of their business, Kaup Seed and Fertilizer. So we're going to go ahead and take some soil samples here, and we're going to know exactly what we need to do as far as chemical wise to put on here to give us the best results possible. You got to take these steps, whether you're dealing with a flood damage type field like we are here, or if you're just anywhere else. Like we just broke up a new food plot out in the middle of nowhere really. It came through, it was a beautiful food plot, but we took our time, we put in the correct chemicals, we got the right prescription. This is all part of the game if you want to get yourself in position to have a real good food plot all throughout the season.
Well, we're up here at the ranch again this weekend, beginning of May. We got some equipment up here from Green Line in Norfolk, and we're actually doing some food plot planning. This is our main plot that we call the bullpen. It's about a 2.5 acre plot. We got Brendan over there in the tractor putting in corn. Kind of our game plan here is to do a little kind of an L all the way along this outside, along the lane of corn, as a little bit of a cover, safety cover for the deer so they feel more comfortable feeding in here. We're going to do 8 to 10 rows from the outside, and then the rest of it we're going to do with beans, and then towards the end of summer we're going to broadcast seed turnips in here, so when the bean leaves die the turnips will come up. So we've got 3 different food sources for all times of the year, and that should get the deer in here through pretty healthy through the winter. And then for hunting purposes, right where Lindsay's standing filming right now, I think we're going to try to get a tower blind up for a northwest wind, and then on the opposite end of this we're going to do another blind for southeast winds. So we should be able to bow hunt that southeast one more. This one will be more for rifle season and muzzleloader season. But basically the setup we've got here is a big alfalfa field right across the lane, and then we're going to have our corn, beans, and then all the bedding is right across the creek. So it's now the last weekend of July, and I'm out here at our second biggest plot up in the hills above the Niobrara River. And this weekend we're checking out plots. Gonna do a little spot spraying for weeds, and then we're gonna try to get a few more plots mowed and sprayed. And then hopefully in a couple weeks we can come out and plant. And what our plan is for this plot right now, we've got corn surrounding the edges and then beans in the middle. And we're gonna come in here in a couple weeks and broadcast seed some winter wheat and rye, and then do some turnips and fill in the spots between the bean rows. So then we have something green coming up once the beans die off towards the middle of September. So we'll have a food source for every part of the season for the deer. And this plot right here does really well later in the year, closer to the rut, when the bucks and does all pile into this spot. And it's just a ½ acre plot, and we've got spots set up for northwest wind and for southeast winds. And Andy actually killed his doe in this plot last year using the Cow Wildlife Perfect seeds, which is the same blends we're using this year. So we got high hopes for this spot. We've already got one of the bucks that we were after last year just right here on camera this year already, so we've got a few to go after. Hopefully it'll work out. Chasing the Dream is brought to you by Big Frig Coolers and Tumblers, quality performance with a practical cost. And by Next Level Deer Supplements. Let them grow.
It's finally September 1st, opening day of bow season here in Nebraska. Tonight I'm set up in a small tree on the corner of our bean and corn plot. And then we got some kelp seed mixed into it. Seeded it with rye and pasture, which is a mix between turnips and rapeseed. And once these bean leaves die, that stuff should come up really green and the deer will have something to eat in late season. But we've had one of our big 8-points, actually two of our big 8-points come into this plot pretty regularly. And the bigger one, the first time we ever had pictures of him in the summer was actually August 15th this year. And I've got a lot of history with that deer. I've almost killed him from the ground with a bow in 2017 and 2018. But he's been coming out here almost every night. I checked the camera on the 30th of August. Haven't been back since, but between the 15th and the 30th, he was here 12 out of those 15 days. Not always in shooting light, but he's been here. So hopefully he's stuck to that pattern and we get a shot at him tonight before it gets dark.
Just like that, one of every bow hunter's biggest nightmares became a reality for me. For those of you who don't know what jumping the string means, it's when an animal flinches in reaction to the sound of the bow before the arrow even gets to them. As a hunter, you have to decide in each situation whether you need to aim a little lower to anticipate them jumping the string or put the pin exactly where you want to hit. In this case, I put the pin exactly where you wanted to hit, and my reasoning behind that was because he was calm, he was only at 25 yards, he was facing away with his head down in the beans. What I failed to think about was how quiet it really was that night, and there was almost no wind noise to muffle the sound of the bow going off. This clip shows where the top of his back was when I pulled the trigger, and just how far he dropped in the fractions of a second before the arrow hit him. So with him ducking, I ended up hitting him right here in the shoulder blade, rather than right here where I was aiming. After watching the video of the shot over and over in the tree that night, I decided it would be the best option to back out and not push the area any farther. That night, in case he was bedded close by, we didn't want to bump him. So Brendan and I came back the next morning and ended up finding my arrow and seeing that it had very little penetration. And we grid searched the entire property for hours that morning and didn't find any blood, any sign of nothing. And after watching the video more and more and showing it to hunting buddies and looking at diagrams of deer anatomy like I put up earlier, we decided that chances are he would probably live and be just fine. And a little over a month later, he showed back up on the camera on the same plot, all healed up, healthy as could be. We got a ton of pictures of him throughout October and November, and actually had 2 sightings of him during rifle season in November. And to our best knowledge, he's still around. And we have a lot of history with that buck that we call Homeboy. Unfortunately, most of our history with him hasn't been very good, and some of you might recognize him from one of our episodes last year. But hopefully he's still around, and we'll get a chance to chase him again this upcoming season as a 7.5-year-old stud. Chasing the Dream is brought to you by Big Frig Coolers and Tumblers. Quality performance with a practical cost. And by Next Level Deer Supplements. Let them grow.
Hey everyone, Lindsay here with Chasing the Dream. So I am telling you a little bit about my first deer hunt. Well, okay, so hunt that I actually got a deer on. So I got the privilege of sitting in our other side of the bullpen, which is planted in the Wildlife Perfect brassicas, which is a great green, late fall, late season food source for our deer. Through the evening, we had seen a lot of does, younger does or smaller deer kind of piling into the food plot. And it was really, really fun to see all that action coming around until we saw my doe that came in. She started about 70 yards out in the food plot and just kept coming closer. She got to 35 yards, didn't know we were there or anything like that. Brendan's sitting over in my left ear, just like, Lindsay, take the shot. Come on, take the shot. You do it now. And I can't do it. I'm freaking out. I'm just shaking, I'm jittering, I can't do it. So she keeps coming closer and closer, and I swear she's gonna run into this blind, just my luck. And Brendan, all of a sudden, when she gets to 20 yards, he's like, Lindsay, you need to shoot now or you're gonna lose her. And I still can't, I'm frozen. So then all of a sudden he lets out like a bleat, like a bleh. She stops, looks, and then just about that second in time, I just breathe out, exhale real fast, pull that trigger, and it's a perfect shot. However, she quarters away super fast to tear off towards a bedding area where she would later fall down, and we'd head in that direction to track her. So we had to wait for a camera, for Garrett to get there with his camera so that we could even track her, but it was pitch black, and I'm sitting there thinking to myself that we're not even gonna find this thing. We're not gonna be able to keep the meat because it's gonna be tomorrow before we can find this thing. But sure enough, between the guys and I, we did it.
To be honest, I don't really exactly know what to say. I kind of owe this one to Brendan and Garrett, mainly because I have no idea how late at night, but they helped me track her down, find her. She made it quite a bit of ways into the woods towards one of the bedding areas that we have. I was able to get a 20-yard shot out of her. She quartered quick and hard, took off and darted. We ended up waiting for the rest of the time to see if a buck would come out so Brendan could get a shot off. Unfortunately, we saw a couple, but they weren't anybody that was on our shooter list. So we're gonna wait to get Brendan a buck another day. As you can obviously tell, when I was sitting in the blind, I have the worst problem with making myself out. Just being a new hunter and not wanting to fail my husband and the guys that I work with and all of you guys. So I was kind of inside my own head, hesitating and not wanting to take the shot, even though it was a 20-yard shot and I had a perfect aim. And I think Brendan kind of latched onto that because he kind of made kind of that doe noise just to get her to stop moving where she was, because she was kind of in a full walk. That got her to stop and look long enough for me to kind of get my shit together and get a shot off. So that's when she quartered and took off. Still gotta find my arrow later, but worst case scenario, I'm not too worried about that because I have my first deer on the ground. I'm so excited. It makes me feel absolutely super empowered and strong and great to know that I can bring home some meat for my family because we are such a big game family, and knowing that I get to clean my first deer tonight too. So we're all gonna have a couple drinks and have like a little party going on, and God bless those boys for taking good care of me and making me do the work to earn my keep, but at the same time helping me out when I don't know all the stuff. So yeah, I am super jacked. So let's get to it.
So it was really, really fun and exciting experience to get my first doe. Later on through the season, I actually ended up with 3 does on the board. Brendan had 1 beautiful trophy buck. So we were able to round out the season very beautifully. And we in fact ended up donating one of our does to Hunters Helping the Hungry, which is a great program that accepts donations of meat, and it also accepts donations of funds as well through the Nebraska State Game and Parks. We actually joined up with Greg Wagner, who gave us a little bit more information on the program and kind of what they all need and what they all do.
Well, congratulations, Lindsay, on that deer. You know, you could donate that deer to our Hunters Helping the Hungry program through a participating meat processor. But let me tell you, our Hunters Helping the Hungry program is in need of dollars, you know, for donated deer. And if you go to our Game and Parks website, you're going to buy your deer permit, you're going to buy an outdoor permit of any kind. There is an area there where you can donate $1, $5, $10, $20, any amount to our Hunters Helping the Hungry program. It's a wonderful program where a licensed deer hunter goes to a participating meat processor, and that individual with a whole adult deer that's been field dressed donates that deer for rough cut purposes. The processor is paid $90, all funded by donations. Hunters Helping the Hungry is. That particular deer is butchered, and that venison, mostly ground venison, is delivered to a local food pantry or shelter, giving somebody who needs some healthy protein, looking for their next meal, a chance to have that through chili, spaghetti, hamburger, or what have you.
Chasing the Dream is brought to you by Big Frig Coolers and Tumblers. Quality performance with a practical cost. And by Next Level Deer Supplements. Let them grow. The last hunt of this episode was one of my evening sits over the same food plot that I hit homeboy in earlier in the season. And it was a pretty slow night. I actually only saw 1 deer in the last 10 minutes of light. So it's kind of dark, kind of grainy, but make sure you watch the bottom right corner.
It's been a long time coming, but I finally tagged 2019 Nebraska buck. It's a buck that we call LA that hung out on our little alfalfa field from late August through basically mid-October, and then he showed up out here 3 miles away. But shot him high shoulder in the bean plot, and he disappeared as soon as I shot. So I looked over the video and it looked like he dropped in his tracks, so we're gonna go check him out before it gets too dark.
shot this buck we nicknamed LA in our southwest bean plot last night at last light. I got it on video, but it's kind of hard to see. He's off in the corner and it's pretty dark, but the story with this guy started 3 miles away down by the cabin in the end of August. He showed up on our trail cameras and he hung around there for probably a month and a half, stayed there until early October, and I actually bumped him from a bed down on the creek bottom once at 5 yards and never got a shot at him with the bow. We put him on the maybe list to decide if we were going to shoot him or not when we had him in range, and it was a pretty easy decision last night. The first time I've had him in range other than when I bumped him. He came out here probably mid-October to late October, and he's been out here ever since. Pretty slow night last night, but last night I heard a deer snort and stood up to see the corner of the plot you can't see sitting down, and I saw the back of a deer standing in there. I waited for him to pick his head up, and it was him. Made the decision right away to shoot. Had to get resituated in the blind, moved the camera over, and dropped him in his tracks. And he was standing in almost the exact same spot that Homeboy was standing in when I hit him with my bow September 1st. So that's kind of cool, but happy to tag my first buck of the season. As you've seen in this episode, these food plots planted with Wildlife Perfect from Calp Forage and Turf played a major role in our 2019 success. We put more time and effort into these food plots than we ever had before, and it definitely paid off. We're really looking forward to the upcoming seasons using these products, and we've got a lot more ideas and different things we want to try. So follow along, and thanks for watching another episode of Chasing the Dream.